Hey guys, Lonewolf here, and as I'm sure most of you are aware by now, a new patch was dropped today for Battlefield 4 dubbed the Winter Patch. It's made some changes, I think all of which I approve of. I've been playing with it for a couple of hours. I just want to discuss my thoughts, the things that have affected me the most, the things I've enjoyed the most, because I think it's been an entirely positive update for me. I know some people have had some issues. I know that a couple of my friends have had an issue with being revived and it then glitching out. I don't have any footage of this because it hasn't actually happened to me, but I've heard this from a couple of sources, each of which I trust. So I do suspect we're going to see some complaining as to problems being brought up by this new patch. I think we're all pretty used to DICE fixing one thing and breaking another in the process, but I think overall this has mostly introduced positive changes. Now if we look at the patch highlights PDF that DICE has produced, I'll leave a link to this and to the fuller patch notes down in the description. You'll see that the first thing they're keen to point out is the improved soldier traversal and collision mechanics. What this basically does is try and improve that situation whereby you would be walking along the ground, come across something like a small rock which you'd assume you'd just walk over, and then you get stuck and either have to step back, go around it, jump over it, vault over it. It's extremely frustrating and it could get you killed if you're trying to run out of the way of enemy fire. This, I would say, I haven't particularly noticed in game, but I think this is because it was always an intermittent issue. Depending on where you were running, it was more of an issue than others, and you're much less likely to notice the absence of a problem than you are the inclusion of a new feature. So looking back, I would say this has improved. In my play session, I don't think I got caught on anything more than once or twice, so this is an improvement on what I had before that, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't notice this overtly. Moving on to gunplay and netcode improvements, from what I understand, they've increased the high frequency network update area to include a 45-degree cone in front of the player. This is to go along with the half sphere that was already there. The best way I can show you what I mean by this is for you to go to the patch highlights PDF, where there's actually a pretty good illustration of this, and that will show you exactly what I mean. I'm not sure exactly whether this is the change that's made the difference with the netcode, but actually it does feel a lot more responsive. The hit registration feels better, and together with the hit markers and the improved reticles, I really do feel like the gunplay has been tightened up quite a bit. I should point out that your mileage may vary here depending upon your PC, the servers you like to play on, and your connection. If I understand correctly, the reason why tick rate wasn't just boosted up to say 60 Hz across the board in this game is because Battlefield is an extremely large game. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of players, especially on 64 men, and so increasing it to that level would be incredibly demanding, perhaps impossibly so on both the server side and client side. So you may see some issues with weaker CPUs. Likewise, if your connection isn't very good, for context, my ping to British servers is around about 6 to 15 milliseconds and to Europe is around 30, so I have a very good connection. You're probably going to see some issues if you have extremely low bandwidth, though I would imagine that's pretty par for the course, and if your ping isn't very good, you may not notice the changes quite to the degree that I have. One seemingly minor change that's actually made quite a big difference to me in gunfights is the ability to change the color of your hit marker depending upon whether or not it's a body shot, headshot, or a kill shot. I've left body shots white, made headshots red, and kill shots green. This is just the color combination that works for me. You can set whatever you like. I've also decreased the overall size of the hit marker by about 20 to 25%, and what this does is lets you know if you get a headshot that you should continue firing in exactly that same space, and if you get a kill shot, then it lets you transition immediately from that target to the next without having to wait either for that enemy killed banner to appear or to visually see that the enemy is dropping. This just makes you much more efficient in dealing with multiple enemies, and especially in a game where I feel there's quite a slow time to kill, it's going to let you make best use of quite a restricted magazine. Especially when you're going for a flank, you really want to kill everyone in that first mag. You don't want to have to reload or switch to your sidearm because that's when people are going to turn and kill you. And you don't want to be overshooting a target, putting more bullets into them than you have to. It's just a waste of ammunition and a waste of time. I've got a clip here that shows you exactly what I mean. Because of that green hit marker, I was able to transition immediately onto the next target, and prior to the patch, I'm fairly sure I would have overshot the first one, and as a result not been able to kill the second before he killed me. So together with the tracers that they've added in, I just feel like there's a lot more information about where your bullets are going and what they're doing, and this is a really good thing overall. They've added in some options for you to change your reticles, change the color, change the size. This is a good thing, and just by default they're a lot better than they were before the patch, at least in my opinion. I don't know how it is on console, but on PC I felt like the dots were just too large, unreasonably large, especially for shooting long range targets. They didn't need to be that big, and now they're a lot smaller, which is a good change in my view. On console you may want to make them larger if you're further away from your screen. Don't quote me on this though, because I don't know exactly which options are available on console versus PC, but I suspect this is probably there as well. Another fairly significant change is the rebalancing they've done with the med bag. It hasn't quite been reverted to where it was prior to the last patch, but it has been changed significantly, and it now is a lot easier to heal when you just take cover. You don't have to get way away from the firefight, and I actually think this speeds up the game. It allows you to be more aggressive with the assault class, which I think is a good thing overall. We'll have to wait and see with this one a bit. I didn't notice it as much as I thought I would, because I've gotten fairly used to not relying on the med bag, but I think with some retraining I'm probably going to use this and make better use of this gadget, and I think it's probably a positive change overall, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see. There have been some minor changes to the vehicles, things like the aim decoupling that should allow you to track a target a little easier because your vehicle's movement and rotation won't affect your point of aim so much. But there have also been some more major changes, like with the helicopter agility buff. Across the board, you should be able to roll a helicopter all the way over, do a barrel roll, because prior to the patch there was actually a hard limit on how far you could tilt before you'd actually lose control of the aircraft. I think now this has been removed and you'll just keep rotating over if you have enough altitude. I can't imagine this being particularly helpful, but maybe it would prevent you from losing control in a situation that you would have done previously. However, when it comes to the attack chopper, the changes made actually make it feel a lot more viable, a lot more practical, and it doesn't feel so much like a flying coffin. You'll see here I'm able to weave in and out of the buildings on Siege of Shanghai, completely terrifying my gunner in the process, and this just wouldn't have been possible prior to the patch. I feel a lot less vulnerable to incoming rockets and other aircraft, and I feel like this vehicle is probably about as balanced as it's ever going to get. Now, on the topic of the straws, which were probably my favourite way to take these things down prior to the patch, they're now a lot more difficult to hit. This isn't to say it can't be done, and if you fly stupidly, if you aren't aware of what's going on, you aren't paying attention, then you will get hit by good straw users, but a good pilot should be able to avoid them no trouble at all. I personally didn't have any problem avoiding them prior to the patch, and I think I only ever got killed out of an attack chopper by straws a handful of times, so I never really understood what the problem was, but if you did have an issue with this, I think you'll find that you're able to avoid them a lot more easily. So with this indirect nerf to the straw now live, I really don't feel like there's any need to directly nerf it further. Once pilots get used to the increased mobility and learn to take advantage of it, it's going to be very difficult to hit a pilot who's paying attention, and if you do hit them, then frankly you deserve that kill. It's also a lot less frustrating to me to be killed by a straw that takes some skill to use than one of the man pads, the Stinger or the Igler, which as well as being annoying are also undeniably easy to use, and whilst I appreciate that sometimes you might want to deny enemy air support and it might feel necessary, at the same time I've never found myself saying "oh wow, good shot" to somebody whose weapon is doing the aiming for them. But these are just my thoughts and opinions. Please do leave your comments down below letting me know what you think, what your experiences have been so far with this patch. Obviously I haven't covered everything that was released, just the things that have been most prominent to me, the things I've noticed the most, the things I've enjoyed the most. I haven't had enough time to give a full informed opinion, so it's just my first impressions. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.